Hello everyone, Deadeye here, and I'm going to be doing a little follow-up to the PlanetSide 2 video I did a couple of weeks ago. Um, just for, I don't know, disclosure, I made that last video, I recorded it, I think I did it live, I believe, yeah, I did it live. It was just a random PlanetSide video. I was playing PlanetSide at the time, I wanted to do a PlanetSide video, I was streaming, I was doing the missions, and then I needed something to talk about, so I just kind of talked about my ideas for the state of the game and some nerf ideas and change ideas. That game, that did that video, it recorded it, and I put it online, I think the day before the Halloween Night of the Dead event was announced, along with the Seeker. And the Seeker turned out to be an overpowered monster. And when you just read it, what the Seeker was, no one knew that. It wasn't until it was implemented, I don't know, half a week later or a week later, that we saw how overpowered it was. And the video had gone live and was actually getting views, and I realized, oh, people are probably checking that video out to see what I think about the Seeker. But I made that video before the Seeker was even live, so I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what it would turn out to be. So I ended up putting a disclaimer in the description saying it was recorded before the Seeker, and that there should be thoughts about the Seeker later. So that's what this is. It's later. Now that I tried the Seeker when it was overpowered, I was going to do a video, but they announced there was going to be nerfs. So I was like, well, now I have to wait till there was nerfs. So, now that the nerfs have gone in, and I've played it a little bit, I can talk about the Seeker. By the way, this is voiceover. I'm not doing this live. The video is just some footage I recorded. I use the Seeker sometimes in it. It's whatnot. I want to expound, is that the right word? I want to continue some ideas I mentioned in the last video and expand on them to include the Seeker. Just generally, I'm not a big fan of numerical nerfs in most situations, and that's what the Seeker got, and it's good. It does reduce the problems with it, but considering it feels like, and I don't know if this is confirmed or anything, the Seeker was never tested. They just plopped it into the game as an overpowered mess, and I do believe it is the most overpowered upon release weapon in the history of the game, even more so than the Canis, which was very overpowered. It was headshot, I think. It's been a while now, but I think it was headshot problems. It had a huge headshot hitbox or something like that. That was faction limited, that gun, whereas the Seeker, of course, isn't. So, I think I mentioned this in the last video, and I'm doing the stream of conscious, so if I kind of jump around, I'm sorry. I think I mentioned this in the last video. So it almost seems like they do these kinds of numerical nerfs because they don't want to admit what they did was wrong in the first place, was to plop something like this down. Like the weapon doing with the I'm going to be talking about it mostly with the fracture, the explosive bolts. The weapon doing small arms damage instead of explosive damage right after they nerfed small arms damage on the heavy, and the heavy class needed nerfs. Which I'll mention in a second. It seems like it was an oversight, and they weren't thinking, they weren't trying. They just someone made the gun, and it's an interesting weapon. The Seeker is, so they just put it in the game without testing, and it's irresponsible to me for a developer of a game for 8 years that makes a lot of money, like this with a subscription model and item purchases and whatnot. So before the Seeker, the way I view the game is that there was two general overpowered builds that needed nerfing: the heavy, with its infantry, anti-infantry purpose and its shield, and the CQC bolting, the invisible bolting, sniper rifles, and then there's everyone else. Now, they nerfed the heavy slightly. In the last video I mentioned the way I feel the game should be constructed, instead of just changing numbers, is that the heavy should have an anti-vehicle role instead of an anti-infantry role. I think the infantry in this game, since most of this game takes place on infantry, I know there's vehicles and planes and whatnot, not helicopters, ESFs. I've been playing Battlefield, excuse me. It's still an infantry-focused game, so make the infantry on an equal level. Now, with the Seeker, it seems they brought two more builds up. Before they nerfed it, way up, but after they nerfed it, just up. But that's not how I would have done things. I still think invisible sniping should probably be just straight up removed. It seems too overpowered. Now, if you don't want to do that, I think you could maybe make a case where you can't be invisible in a redeploy zone for some reason. You know, make a piece of lore that says there's a field that says you can't be invisible with a sniper. It's weird, I know, but it's crazy powerful to run around a corner, not see someone because he's standing still, and they headshot you dead. Yes, you should kind of anticipate these situations, but you can't be prepared for them all the time with every build and setup, and it seems very powerful. It's a good counter to heavies, but instead of having a counter to heavies, because they're overpowered and there's no other counters, put everything down to the same level. Heavies should, I feel, have an anti-vehicle role, which I mentioned in the previous video. But what they did was they gave the Seekers to the LAs with the Fracture, which was crazy. It's crazy range, crazy cycle rate, crazy indirect damage. And they gave the same weapon to the Infiltrators, who already had an overpowered build, but this is a slightly different build. So we get 2 more overpowered builds. Meanwhile, Engineers and Combat Medics are ignored, which, let's be honest, they could use some love. But anyways, at least in the infantry setting. The Fracture bolts, the changes they made, are good. They make them worse to use. I don't feel the cycle rate is enough. It doesn't feel any different. I know it has the delay fire. I would probably remove the delay fire and increase the cycle rate if we were going to do nothing else. But that's me. I think actually they fixed the scope, which is something no one even mentioned before they changed it. The scope, the 6x scope, wasn't actually 6x. That is actually a buff. Now the gun has even more ability to exploit its range. But with the delay fire, it's really hard. It's difficult anyways. But to me, that's just fixing what the problem, or putting a bandage on the problem. The problem is it's overpowered from begin with. And all it does is make another overpowered thing in this infantry game instead of making a balanced infantry fight and making an interesting weapon. What I would do for the Seeker, in fact, was make 2 different weapons for each class, the Infiltrator and the Light Assault. Now, for the Infiltrator, I wouldn't have given it, I probably wouldn't use, the attachment system. I'd just make it what it is. I would use the split bolts only for the Infiltrator, because the Infiltrators don't have access to shotguns, and the split bolt's kind of a shotgun. Kind of. And it would still be a primary weapon for them. It would give them a different close quarters weapon. And for the light assaults, it wouldn't be a primary weapon. It would be an anti-infantry. It would have the Fracture bolt as built in as the design. And I would even keep, the indirect damage and whatnot. I would lower the range. I think the range is absurd for this weapon. I understand it fits in the lore because it's a light-based weapon, but still. It would be an infantry area denial kind of weapon. And it would actually take place of the rocket, what's it called? The rocket rifle in the tool slot. I don't use LA very much, so excuse me. The rocket rifle is used by LAs, I'm assuming by people who play it a lot. I do see it a lot. But it's usually just to chase down a vehicle that survived your, C4s. Now, that's just from my experience and my observation. I don't play LA a lot. But that's from what I see other people. That seems to be what it is. That means the slot is not being used a lot of the time, since this is an infantry game. So I would make the Fracture Bolt Seeker in the rocket rifle tool slot as an anti-infantry area denial weapon, kind of like the Thumper. Now, even though I said I don't generally like numerical nerfs, I think you do, in that scenario, you would need to take a look at the ammo. I would probably give it 10 rounds instead of 40. But, yeah, I think that could work. Or maybe like 12 rounds or something. Because it's so easy to reload in this game, your ammo stock. It doesn't seem like a nerf to not have clips. It doesn't seem like a problem, so I don't know why that's considered part of its balancing. And the reason why I would like it to be in that role, in that slot, because then you would gain the benefit, or you would gain the benefit of the nerf for balancing purposes of switching weapons, since there is a time delay, right, when you switch weapons. Let's use that as an effective balancing act for an overpowered weapon instead of putting it in the primary slot. Now that's what I would do with the Seeker. I would make it 2 weapons, different roles for the different classes, along with my general ideas of nerfing the heavy and the invisible sniping, because then it puts all the kind of infantry on similar footing, and we can focus on the infantry game instead of trying to make a couple of roles really powerful to make people happy that don't play, or who play those roles. Instead, those people are unhappy because the other roles are overpowered. That's my feelings. I don't know. The only other real idea I mentioned this a few times. I would have liked the Seeker on the medic, and you could have replaced it, maybe even replaced the tool slot, and give it a healing bolt, like the Crusader crossbow and in TF2. I really like TF2. I have as many hours in TF2 as I have in PlanetSide, and we're talking like 1,200, 1,500 hours. I guess I should mention I have a level 80 or above character in every class in PlanetSide. I've played a lot of PlanetSide. I've played a lot of TF2. Give the Seeker with a healing bolt to the medic. I know the medic already has the access to the grenade. The grenade. What's it called? The class grenade, the barrel grenade, whatever it's called, for the Punisher, which does that. It heals and it cleanses any effects. But I personally don't like the Punisher that much, and I know I'm in a minority there. The Punisher, when you look at the kill list, is usually pretty high for amount of kills. I don't particularly like the Punisher. I like the other assault rifles more. Since I've played medic a lot. Of those 80 levels on each or more of each faction character I've probably gotten at least 60 on each one just playing medic. I really like the medic class in this game. I would like something new to do with the medic class in this game, since it seems basically unchanged since the start. At least the engineers got, buildings and stuff. But I feel, to diversify and add things, keep the infantry level fighting similar, but add things around it. I don't know. I don't think we should just be making overpowered weapons. Yeah. I don't know. This is stream of conscious. I didn't write any of this out. I just had my ideas collected. So I don't really have a way to end this. I do hope you all enjoyed this video, and I know a lot of people watched my last video. I hope this one's a little more succinct. The last video was 90 minutes long or something. I was just doing the game and talking. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how to end this. I'm probably forgetting something. But, if we're going to be giving out ideas, I don't know if I mentioned this in that last video. I think the engineer, to give them something more, would be certs for base turrets. I think the base turrets are woefully underpowered. I don't like it, but The Seeker the nerfs that they did are appropriate. I don't think they go far enough personally, but it's an appropriate start. We'll see. They'll probably get some more nerfs. I've already done the event directive, so I'm not going to be playing the game. I put a lot of hours in a very tight period of time. So I'm probably not going to be playing the game again until the Christmas directive. But I don't know. I should maybe do some more PlanetSide content. The state of the game is really good. This footage I captured wasn't even really peak hours. It was kind of peak hours, but not really. Even some nights I play the game and doesn't even ever go to Cold Tier, which is, the low pop hour continent. So strangely, the game's still good because there's not much competition in the MMO FPS space. There are a few, but they're not good. And the new Battlefield 2042 doesn't seem like it's going to be good. So that's most closest direct competitor is not going to be good, and it doesn't really probably attract the same audience anyways. So I like PlanetSide. It's still healthy somehow. That's great. I don't know, that's it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, do please subscribe. Daily uploads on this channel. Maybe I'll do some more PlanetSide content. That's gonna be it for me, Deadeye, ladies and gentlemen. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye now.